You got the raise, maybe you've gotten 3 of them, and you're still running the same math every single month, wondering why the number never actually moves. That's not a discipline problem, that's a system working exactly as it was designed to work. There's a version of this conversation most people have privately, usually late at night when the noise is gone. It goes something like, if I could just make a little more, I'd finally be able to save, finally build something real. And the uncomfortable part isn't the thought. The uncomfortable part is that you've been having it at 3 different income levels. The anxiety doesn't change. The number just has more zeros behind it. Most people read that as a motivation problem, a willpower problem. They push harder, earn more, tell themselves this next raise will be the one that finally creates breathing room. But behavioral research says something else entirely. On average, when people receive a 10% raise, their spending increases by 12, not 10, not 9.5, 12. The raise arrives. And within 90 days, it's gone, not into savings, not into investments, but into a version of life that quietly expanded without a single deliberate decision being made. The money habits that build real wealth don't come from earning more. They come from understanding why every dollar of extra income is already spoken for before it even reaches you. So the question worth asking, the one almost no one asks, is this: what is your identity actually costing you? By the end of this video, you're going to calculate a number you've never seen before, not a savings percentage, not a budget category, a single specific number that reveals the lifetime cost of the version of yourself you've been unconsciously funding with every raise, every promotion, every income increase you've ever received. Not guilt, not shame, just the kind of clear-eyed recognition that permanently changes how you see every spending decision going forward. Here is the mechanism. Think of your self-image as a thermostat, a functional neurological thermostat with a fixed set point. When the temperature drops in a room, the thermostat fires automatically. It doesn't consult you. It doesn't ask permission. It simply restores the room to the temperature it believes the room should be at. Your brain does the exact same thing with your lifestyle. The moment you internalize a new income level, consciously or not, your mind recalibrates what counts as normal for someone like you. A normal person at your income drives this kind of car, lives in this kind of apartment, wears this kind of clothing. And from the moment that recalibration locks in silently below the threshold of conscious decision-making, every dollar of new income is already allocated, not because you chose to spend it, because your identity decided who you are now. And who you are now costs more than who you were 3 months ago. Behavioral economists call this lifestyle inflation, but that label misses something important. Inflation implies external pressure. This pressure is entirely internal. This is your savings discipline being quietly overridden not by market forces or rising prices, but by a self-image restoration mechanism that operates below conscious thought. Every raise you've ever received has been handed almost immediately to that mechanism. You never noticed because there was no transaction, no decision. Just a life that gradually became more expensive, and a savings account that continued to look exactly the same. Over a century ago, an American economist named Thorstein Veblen studied the wealthiest families of the industrial age and noticed something that didn't fit any existing economic model. They weren't acquiring things primarily for function. They were acquiring things as a form of language. The car wasn't transportation. It was a sentence: I belong at this level. The apartment wasn't shelter. It was a declaration: I have arrived. Veblen called this conspicuous consumption, spending not to live, but to communicate who you are to the people around you. And the disturbing part of his finding wasn't the behavior itself. The disturbing part was this: it's automatic. People don't consciously choose to spend for status. They absorb signals from their social environment about what someone at their income level is supposed to own, and they spend to restore alignment with those signals. No deliberation, no choice, just the thermostat firing. Every raise doesn't give you more freedom. It raises the stakes of a social performance you didn't voluntarily sign up to give. And the money habits that could build real wealth never get a chance to form, because the identity set point consumes the surplus first, every single time. 2,000 years before Veblen put this into economic language, a man who had spent years enslaved distilled the exact solution. Epictetus divided everything in human experience into 2 categories: the things within your power, your judgments, your desires, your choices, and the things outside your power, your income, market conditions, what your neighbors own, what your colleagues earn. He called the first category persists, and he was unambiguous about this. Lasting freedom comes only from mastering persists, not from optimizing the external. Modern personal finance does the precise opposite. It obsesses over the external: earn more, diversify, optimize your portfolio, find better rates, and that works to a degree until the thermostat fires. Until the identity set point restores equilibrium, you increase income, the set point rises to match it. You are now maintaining a more expensive identity on a higher salary, and the gap between what you earn and what you keep is unchanged. Stoic financial discipline begins exactly where conventional financial advice refuses to go, not with income but with desire management, with the internal. Here is the reframe that changes the entire equation. The person who builds real wealth is not the highest earner in the room. The person who builds real wealth is the person whose identity is the least expensive to maintain. Two people earn the same salary. Person A's identity requires a specific housing tier, a specific vehicle, a specific wardrobe standard, a specific dining frequency. Their identity costs $6,500 a month to sustain. Person B's identity is built around financial freedom, self-mastery, and intentional spending. Their identity costs $3,200 a month, same income. One builds compound wealth, the other perpetually chases it. The difference is not discipline, it's not knowledge, it's not investment strategy. It's the price tag of what each person believes they're supposed to be. And here's why this particular money habit is so difficult to identify. Because every raise arrives with a narrative attached. I earned this, I've been sacrificing, I deserve to finally enjoy the upgrade, and all of that is emotionally true. The tragedy isn't the spending itself. The tragedy is that your identity wrote the check before the direct deposit cleared. Every lifestyle upgrade feels like a reward. Functionally, it operates as a tax, levied automatically by your own self-image on every dollar of new income, without negotiation, without notice. The savings discipline you've been searching for has never been primarily about sacrifice. It's been about building a version of yourself that simply doesn't require the upgrade, a self-image rooted in freedom rather than in signals. One that doesn't read a raise as permission to expand, but as raw material for compounding. Here is the number almost no one ever runs. Take a household earning $75,000 a year, receiving 2 meaningful raises over 20 years, each one absorbed by a corresponding identity upgrade. The compound wealth that was available to be built from those raises, invested at historical average market returns, doesn't just disappear. It converts into furniture, into cars that depreciated, into experiences that left no financial trace. Conservative estimates put the lifetime cost of running an identity set point that rises in lockstep with income at somewhere between $400,000 and $800,000 of wealth that could have been built, but wasn't. Not because of poor investment decisions, not because of financial illiteracy, because the thermostat kept the room at exactly the temperature the identity demanded, and there was never enough surplus left to become anything permanent. The money was always there, the intention was always there, the identity just kept spending it first. So here is the audit. The True Cost Audit. Go through every category of your monthly spending and ask for each one, not can I afford this, but is this purchased for function or for identity? Then ask the harder question, which of these expenses would survive if no one could ever see them? If you drove a car that no one else would know about, if you lived in an apartment no one else would visit, if you wore clothing that carried no signal to anyone, what remains, what survives when the audience disappears is what you genuinely need. What evaporates when the audience disappears is what your identity was purchasing, not for you, but for the version of you that exists in other people's perception. Financial minimalism isn't deprivation. It's locating the precise line between function and performance and choosing to stop funding the performance. Lower the cost of your identity. Watch what happens to your savings rate without a single additional dollar of income. That is what Epictetus understood. Prosperity isn't the accumulation of income. Prosperity is sufficiency, a self that costs less than it generates. The person who reaches real financial freedom doesn't get there by out-earning everyone else. They get there by making their identity inexpensive enough that wealth becomes the natural, inevitable result of the gap between what they earn and what they need to be themselves. The question worth sitting with after this video is simple. If you rebuilt your identity around freedom instead of recognition, what would it cost per month? Run that number. Compare it to what you spend now. The gap between those two numbers is the wealth you are currently converting into a lifestyle. You already have what it takes. You may just be spending it on the wrong version of yourself. If this framing shifted something, subscribe. The next video looks at something specific. Why a modest saver consistently out-accumulates a high earner over time, and the exact compounding math that makes the gap grow wider the longer it's ignored.